The wedding was perfect, until a brave little boy revealed a secret that shattered everything. In the small, peaceful town of Ridgewood, life seemed idyllic for Thomas Reed and his young son Jackson. Thomas wasn't just any ordinary man. He was a self-made tech millionaire, having created a wildly successful dating app that turned his life around. But beneath his financial success lay a story of loss and love. Thomas's life had been forever changed when his wife, Emily, passed away in a tragic accident just 2 years after Jackson was born. Emily had been his soulmate, best friend, and partner in everything. Losing her left a deep void in Thomas's heart, and for years, he focused solely on raising Jackson while quietly battling his grief. As time passed, Thomas realized Jackson needed more than just a father. He needed a mother figure too. That's when Linda entered their lives. On the surface, she was perfect, kind, caring, and seemingly devoted to Thomas and Jackson. But beneath her warm exterior was a dark secret, one that young Jackson would soon discover. What started as a hopeful new beginning was about to turn into a nightmare, with Jackson being the only one who could stop it. Stay tuned to find out how this brave little boy saved his father from betrayal just in time. Thomas and Emily's love story was something out of a fairy tale. They first met in middle school as two shy kids paired together for a science project. Over time, their friendship blossomed into a beautiful romance. They grew up side by side, attending the same college, supporting each other through every challenge. During their final year of college, they were overjoyed to learn Emily was pregnant with their son Jackson. Though they were young, Thomas was determined to provide for his family. His passion for technology led him to develop a dating app, a small project that quickly grew into a massive success. By the time Jackson was born, Thomas was already a millionaire, with a bright future ahead of him. But life took a cruel turn when Emily tragically died in a car accident 2 years later, leaving Thomas devastated. He poured all his love into raising Jackson, struggling to fill the void Emily had left behind. For years, Thomas couldn't imagine being with anyone else. But as Jackson grew, Thomas realized his son needed more. A mother figure who could offer the warmth and care he felt Jackson deserved. After much hesitation, he decided to give dating another chance, turning to the very app he had created. That's when he met Linda. She appeared perfect, kind, understanding, and seemingly devoted. She brought a glimmer of hope back into Thomas's life, making him believe he could finally move on. Little did he know, this new chapter would come with dark secrets and unforeseen dangers. When Thomas was away on business trips, Linda's sweet and caring facade would vanish, revealing her true nature. Far from being the perfect partner, she was deceitful, cunning, and hiding a dangerous secret. Her real boyfriend, Aaron, would visit their home, and together they would scheme against Thomas. What had started as a seemingly genuine relationship quickly turned into something far more sinister. Their goal was simple yet chilling. They wanted to take everything from Thomas: his wealth, his home, his company, and if necessary, even his life. One day, Jackson, who had grown wary of Linda, accidentally overheard one of their conversations. He pressed his ear to the door and listened in horror as Aaron whispered, "Once we get rid of him, everything will be ours." Fear gripped Jackson, but so did a fierce determination. He knew he had to protect his father, no matter the risk. He couldn't tell Thomas directly. What if Linda found out before they could prove anything? So Jackson came up with a plan. With his small hands trembling, he took his tablet and carefully hid it near the living room, its microphone quietly recording every word. For days he gathered evidence, capturing Linda and Aaron's conversations about their plans to steal from Thomas and their discussions of how to handle anyone who got in their way. Jackson's heart pounded each time he retrieved the tablet, terrified that Linda might catch him. But he knew he couldn't stop, not when his father's life was at stake. Despite his fear, Jackson stayed strong. He had to find the right moment to reveal the truth. Time was running out, and with every passing day, Linda and Aaron's plans grew bolder. He needed proof that no one could deny. Little did they know, the brave little boy they underestimated was quietly building the evidence that would shatter their scheme once and for all. As the wedding day drew closer, the atmosphere in Ridgewood was filled with excitement and anticipation. Friends and family gathered to celebrate Thomas's new chapter, unaware of the dark truth lurking beneath the surface. Jackson, however, couldn't share in the joy. The closer the ceremony got, the heavier the secret he carried weighed on him. Every time he saw Linda smile at his father, pretending to be the perfect bride, his anxiety grew. He knew he couldn't let the wedding happen. He had to act, and fast. But how could he reveal the truth without causing chaos? It was now or never. On the big day, Ridgewood's church was beautifully decorated, with flowers lining the aisle and sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows. Guests filled the pews, eager to witness Thomas and Linda's union. Jackson, dressed in a sharp little suit, stood to the side, his heart racing. As the ceremony began, he mustered all the courage he had. He approached his father quietly, tugging at his sleeve. "Dad, please, I need to show you something. It's important." Thomas was puzzled by Jackson's sudden seriousness, but trusted his son enough to step aside for a moment. Away from the curious eyes of the guests, Jackson handed him the tablet. "Just watch, Dad. Please." With a furrowed brow, Thomas pressed play. The recordings played out, and Thomas's expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to pure fury. Every word Linda and Aaron had said was clear, proof of their betrayal, their plans to take everything from him, and their chilling intent to harm. Thomas clenched his jaw, anger coursing through him. How could he have been so blind? The woman he thought would help him rebuild his life was planning to destroy it. He placed a protective hand on Jackson's shoulder, silently thanking his brave son for saving him from a terrible fate. As he looked back toward the altar, he knew what he had to do. This wedding was about to take a very unexpected turn. Thomas took a deep breath, steadying his nerves before walking back into the church. The weight of betrayal sat heavy in his chest, but his focus was now on protecting his son and putting an end to this farce. As he reached the altar, he raised his hand, signaling the officiant to pause. The room fell silent, with confused murmurs rippling through the crowd. All eyes turned to Thomas, who looked at Linda with a cold, piercing gaze. "I can't go through with this," Thomas said firmly, his voice echoing through the room. Linda's smile faltered, confusion giving way to panic as Thomas continued. "This woman isn't who she pretends to be. She and her real boyfriend, Aaron, have been plotting to take everything from me. And worse, they plan to hurt my son." Gasps filled the room as Thomas held up the tablet, playing a brief clip of the incriminating recordings. Linda's face turned pale, and before she could respond, Thomas had already called the police. Within minutes, officers arrived, escorting both Linda and Aaron out in handcuffs. The once joyous occasion had turned into a shocking revelation. Guests whispered among themselves, still trying to process what had just happened. Thomas knelt beside Jackson, pulling him into a tight hug. "You saved me, buddy. I'm so proud of you." Though the day hadn't ended with a wedding, Thomas felt a sense of relief. The ordeal was over, and thanks to Jackson's bravery, they could finally move forward, together, safe and free from deceit. After the chaos had settled, Thomas knelt beside Jackson, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You were incredibly brave, Jackson," he said with a proud smile. I know how scary it must have been, but you did the right thing." Jackson looked up at his father, a mix of relief and exhaustion on his face. For the first time in a long while, Thomas felt a weight lift from his heart, not just because the danger was over, but because he realized how much his son had grown. In the days that followed, father and son spent more time together, focusing on what truly mattered, rebuilding their lives. They took long walks through the park, shared laughs over homemade meals, and even began planning a short trip to the mountains, a place Emily had always loved. Wanting a fresh start, Thomas made a decision. "How about we move somewhere new?" he asked Jackson one morning. "Someplace where we can leave all this behind and start over." Jackson's eyes lit up at the idea. Together they searched for a new home, one where they could create new memories without the shadow of recent events hanging over them. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one built on trust, love, and the unbreakable bond between a father and his son. As Thomas stood on the porch of their new home, he took a deep breath, letting the crisp morning air fill his lungs. He watched Jackson play in the yard, a lightness in his steps that hadn't been there in a long time. A quiet smile crept onto Thomas's face as he reflected on everything they had been through. Life doesn't always go as planned, he thought, but as long as we have each other, we can get through anything. The past weeks had tested them in ways he never imagined, but in the end, it brought them closer, forging a bond that no hardship could break. Jackson, sensing his father's gaze, ran up the steps and stood beside him. "I'm glad we moved," Jackson said, his voice filled with pride. "I feel like we're starting fresh." Thomas ruffled his son's hair, nodding in agreement. "You made a brave decision, Jackson, and because of that, we're here, starting a new life." They stood there for a moment, father and son, embracing the promise of a new beginning. Together, they knew they could face whatever life threw their way. Thank you all for watching this story. We hope it resonated with you and reminded you of the importance of courage and standing up for what's right. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us bring more stories like this to life. And remember, sometimes even the smallest voices can make the biggest difference. Whether it's a brave child or anyone daring to speak the truth, a single act of courage can change everything. Stay safe, stay strong, and we'll see you in the next one.